what are some recent developments or trends in product liability law that you've been seeing that could impact future cases?
Well, one trend I've seen is that online retailers now will have these these resolution dispute links in their website somewhere. So if you're unhappy with the product, you click here, and if you were hurt by the product, click here, and well, send us pictures and tell us about it, and we'll resolve it internally. So they figured out, these product manufacturers, that people may attempt to negotiate with them on their own inside the confines of the online platform by sending pictures. And because they figured out they don't want people talking to attorneys and figuring out everything that happened, they're hoping they can get people to jump at minor little, relatively minor offers to resolve their concerns. So that's a big development, is that online retailers now are figuring out that people will call attorneys who will dig in and investigate and figure out what happened, and they try to head that off by getting you to go through their online dispute process through their web portal. And
Yeah,
so be
you know,
careful with that.
I see a lot of people on Facebook and Meta and that sort of thing, Instagram. They're buying a lot of cheap products from overseas, from China. And China, I guess, ships directly to people here in the United States, right? Alibaba and that sort of thing. If you buy a product from China and you know, it there's an issue that harms you, does it make a difference whether they're in China? Like, can you do anything if they're in China? Do the laws still protect
China,
you?
well, the answer to your question is you can't sue somebody who's only in China and doesn't have any contact with the United States. And so, if you have back to our example, we've been hitting on batteries here. A battery manufacturer only exists in China, and they make their batteries in China, and those batteries are shipped internal to China over to another factory where they install those batteries in a product that then eventually, through the stream of commerce, gets to the United States. That battery manufacturer is not what we call subject to the Hague Convention. You can't sue them under the laws of the United States or the individual states inside the United States. And so then the question becomes, okay, how does the law of the state where you're sitting, do Kentucky, Tennessee, Colorado, handle it when one of the participants in the overall creation of the product, the battery manufacturer, is beyond the power of the law of that state? What do you do? And that depends on each individual state how the law is going to handle that. But it's true,
Interesting.
a lot of manufacturers in China, you can't reach them. You can't get the law to the United States or any state in the United States to apply to them.
Yeah. And so, for example, if you had something like Samsung, that's a Korean company, but they have stores and they have, facilities here in the United States, even though they're based in Korea, you would have some sort of protection there, right? Because they do business in Korea and in the United States. But if someone is completely like in China and then you bought something from China, they shipped it here, then you know you would have less protection. Would you say that's correct?
I would say you might not be able to get your hands on all the participants in the creation of the product
Hmm.
if they're overseas and they have no contact with the United States. And let's not pick on China. There's plenty of stuff
Okay.
made in Vietnam and the Philippines and other places in this world. So you can buy something made in France. And if that country in France has no contact with the United States, you might have difficulty with that. But what makes China particularly difficult is they're not a signatory to the Hague Convention.
Hmm.
They do not cooperate with the law and the governments of the United States in holding companies responsible for what they make.
Hmm. So I guess my question for you is, what do you mean by contact? They have no contact with the United States. Um,
They have no legally recognized entity in any state in the United States.
okay.
They don't have a physical presence here in the United States. They don't have any registered agents for
Hmm.
service of lawsuits anywhere in the United States. They are a company organized under the laws of, say, China or
Hmm.
Hong Kong, and their physical structures and manufacturing facilities are all over in either Hong Kong or mainland China, and they just literally just don't have anybody or anything in any part of the United States.
Right. So I guess just for added clarification, that wouldn't be every Chinese company. It wouldn't be every Filipino company or Japanese company or any other. It wouldn't be every foreign company because there are some companies that have a presence in the U.S., whereas there are some companies that don't. So, for example, if you buy something online that comes from China and it's cheap and it explodes on you, you may not. It may be very difficult to do anything about it. But TikTok and Huawei and all these other companies do have a presence in the U.S., and then you could take legal recourse in that case. Would you say that's correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And other examples, Tesla is a Chinese company. They manufacture Teslas in China.
Mhm.
They're a United States company. They're here in the United States. You may have seen Volvo cars. Volvo cars, a lot of them are manufactured in China, and they
Interesting.
import them from China. So, would you call Volvo a Chinese company? And by the way, Volvo is owned by a holding company that's Chinese, and
Hmm.
so don't it has to do with, do the companies have minimum contact? Do they have presence in the United States? And then the next question becomes, okay, if they don't, then how's the law of your individual state going to treat that situation? Some states say, okay, if the manufacturer, in our other example, the battery, just does no contact with some states, those states will say, okay, well, then the person who sold the product is responsible for the product in total. You don't have to
Mhm.
worry about that battery manufacturer.